Hey folks, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. It's time for Ask the Doc with Dr. William Whaley and Dr. Raymond Tidman. And we want to thank North Georgia Cancer Research, affiliated with Northside Hospital. We are at Circuit World here in Blue Ridge, and the doctors have both prescribed me sauerkraut. No, that's just a joke.
No, it's not a joke.
It's right?
You remember now, chicken soup has in it the cartilage of the joints that liquefies mucus and is really good when you have a cold and a cough. And that's an old wives' tale that has great truth to it. Sauerkraut has that, what's it got in it, Ray? Got some kind of fermentation in it, and that has digestive properties. Now, I don't think it's going to make your hair back brown, or make it curl, or take 40 pounds off of you, but I think it's supposed to be good for your digestion.
It might make your hair stand up.
Really? That's a concern. All right, it's time for Ask the Doc. All right, let's get right into...
Well, I want to start. You remember what I said? What I said was, we got two different people this week who said that two people this week that said, we heard on your program information that we did not hear from the regular press for a week sometimes and a month sometimes. And those were, and they gave me a list. COVID transmission by particles came out this week. We had a thing when Ray was talking about blowing 8 pounds of a liquid or something through the mask. That's been 10 weeks ago. COVID patients have blood clots. That was in the news yesterday when we first talked about the ICU. That's been 3 months ago. We discussed anticoagulation and blood clots. Immunity may not last. Well, still don't know the answer to that question, but it was 3 months ago, and we're going to come back to that in a minute when we talk about the president, which is why I wanted to bring this up. And then the last one, the steroids and dexamethasone, early in the course, we discussed that 2.5 months ago. So those four things that have made the news in the last few weeks, you heard first on Ask the Doc on FYNTV.com, hosted by BKP, sponsored by Northside Cancer Center, and Dr. Whaley's guests have...
He's pretty good.
Dr. Whaley's guests have particidated.
You need to give him a regular slot, I tell you. He's pretty good.
I don't know.
I've got a regular slot.
That's you.
Every Friday morning at 8:08.
You know what? We have said that over and over, that we take this segment very serious because both of these gentlemen know they're coming here on Friday. They know they're going on the World Wide Web. They know that this is being shared in a lot of areas. Because of what I think you're getting in disinformation, these two gentlemen come and try to clear up on Fridays and study and bring good information. And let me tell you, I know I don't want to go to favorite because it could change next week, but I like everything about that tie.
Okay.
All right. And you said there that you have a reason why
I do have a reason. This is a golf tie. You can't tell here. But tomorrow, if the Lord's willing and the rain holds back, there's going to be a golf tournament in Copper Basin. It's an area up here in the mountains, but it's sponsored for providing money for a home for homeless veterans. So it's my way of saying to the people in the mountains, you support the veterans well, you support, you're patriotic, you do the right thing, and tomorrow, if you have a few bucks, you can go to the Copper Basin Copper Basin Golf Club and support the Veterans Golf Tournament. There you go.
Okay, so...
and that shirt is going to put the pixels to the
making
pixels.
Those rasters go crazy in that.
All right.
So let's jump right into this. And as many times, here's some things that have been looking for the way to approach. It upset me this week. They upset me because knowing many people in the medical world, doctors, I've yet to meet one that would actually go on the camera and lie. I'm serious. All right, we know there's good and bad in all things, and I'm going somewhere with this. We know there's good and bad in all industries. Okay, I've yet in my lifetime meet the doctor that will go to the camera and lie for me or write me some excuse. Is Dr. Conley, the White House physician, has he come out and misled the American people, to your knowledge, on the president's current state of health?
Well, it's interesting you asked that, because I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube and interviews and such. I don't comment much, but I commented on one yesterday. And it was a doctor that was being, quote, interviewed in Washington State, and he went off on the president. And the nature of the interview was such that they were accusing the president's doctors of withholding information.
Yes.
And they also accused or basically inferred that it was the president's fault that he had an illness. And I was very terse in my response. I said, first of all, I don't know that this person's a doctor, and they may be wearing a white coat, but physicians don't blame their patients for their illness. We just don't do that, okay? And number two, we don't start talking about what somebody has or did or didn't do as though we're an authority when we haven't even seen the patient or seen the chart. And the final thing is that every human being has the right to privacy. So the fact that all of those reporters are up there saying, hey, what about this, what about this, what about that, the doctor doesn't have to tell them anything. When a patient comes to the emergency room, it is quite common for them to have an IV put in and be put on oxygen while the doctor's working them up, just to be safe with them. Okay? The fact that the president may or may not have been put on oxygen means nothing. Okay? The doctors decided he was ill enough to go into the hospital. That's serious. In the statement.
And they didn't lie about that.
They didn't lie about that. And they don't have to tell anybody about whether he was on oxygen or not. And even if they told him he was on oxygen, all they can do is run around with their hair on fire and act like that's some big deal. It's no big deal. It's what we do commonly to make sure somebody's stable and they're not crashing, while our back's turned to them. So,
take that, Dr. Whaley. Same question, but I also want you to start into the treatment that the president received. But I've yet to see Dr. Conley. I've yet to meet a physician that just came out and has what he's accused of, Dr. Conley.
Okay, let me tell you a few things that I don't know about Dr. Conley, but I know about White House physicians, because I've dealt with White House physicians personally like this over 40 years. And I've been invited by 3 White House physicians to Washington to give talks. It used to be that they would be introduced as Commander or Captain Conley, White House physician. And that was when the Bethesda Medical Center was the seat. This is a little bit of military politics. Seat of senatorial and presidential health care. When they closed Bethesda Medical Center, and they essentially closed Walter Reed Hospital and combined them in to the Walter Reed Medical Center, and that is also the center of the military medical school, they sort of took Army and Navy out of it everywhere. And I'm convinced that Conley is either a lieutenant colonel in the Army or he's a commander in the Navy, because they always are. So you got to remember that he is in a military hospital, and he has devoted himself specifically to the health of the president and to his protection. Conley was totally accurate, I think, in what he told us. But what he told us and what we learned by watching this is, you go back to what we've said in this program for about 12 weeks, and I want to begin by saying this is what the president got. We know this from Conley and from all of the rest of the stuff, and it is absolutely simple. He went in the hospital. He was immediately assessed, and when they assess somebody coming into the hospital, they start an IV, they draw blood, they do an EKG, and they stick a nasal oxygen thing in your nose, and it doesn't make any difference if you're in there with a toenail fracture. I mean, that's the way it begins. All right, put up that first slide you got there. The first thing that they made real clear was, you got that drug company name up there? All right, because I don't think I'd ever really heard of Regeneron until then. I do know that it was one of those companies that goes, so you can pull that thing down. But Regeneron made the antibody treatment that the president received, and the next day the stock went up 14%. As Ray says, people immediately began to criticize the announcement and said that it was sort of insider trading. Somebody bought Regeneron stock. Go to the second one here. These are the three things that the president received, and in this order, when he went into not in this order, but in terms of their impact on his disease.
So this is the treatment.
This is the treatment that he received, and as I said last week, he did not get hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and Zithromax.
They keep calling it a cocktail.
Whatever it is.
The reason that they don't call it a cocktail is there's three ingredients here. He got the remdesivir experimental antibody cocktail. I'll be able to show you here in just a minute, and that's exactly what it says. Treatment 2 was he got remdesivir IV, and third, he got dexamethasone. Well, I said 3 or 4 months ago, dexamethasone, you very commonly give that in any sort of a allergic reaction. You give dexamethasone for really bad poison ivy. You give dexamethasone for people who got an asthma attack or really bad struck up sinuses. There's nothing secret about dexamethasone. It's a cheap drug, and it diminishes the inflammatory reaction people knew were going on with this disease 4 months ago. So that's not a secret. The second one is the remdesivir is an antiviral drug. We have hundreds of those drugs. You got Tamiflu that we give out. You got Valtrex for people with herpes zoster. We've got all these drugs. Ray gives them out every day. The only secret about this one is it's IV. It's a little more specific for this particular virus than it might be for, say, shingles or something. Now the third, the top one there is the cocktail. Go to the second picture. I want to go to the punchline first. This, Ray, if you look at that, this is CT scans of 5 different lungs of patients who are in this trial before the president got it. And remember, we talked about phase 1 trials, phase 2 trials, phase 3 trials. This is the phase 1 clinical trial where they're trying to come up with the dose that is going to have the most effect. Now, you don't have to be a doctor to look at that right-hand picture with all that cloud in there and recognize if that's lung, that stuff's not breathing very well. So this dose right there is where the people got a placebo, got no drug at all. Over here at the bottom is a dose of 0.3 milligrams per kilogram. The next one's is 25 milligrams per kilogram. The next 50, the next 150. In other words, in 5 doses, they go from 0.3 to 150. That's a phase 1 clinical trial where each next dose is about 20 times more powerful than the one before, until they find out when they hit that dose right there, which is 25 milligrams per kilogram. So that'd be 12.5 milligrams per pound of body weight given as an IV infusion one time. That lung looks pretty clean. So I don't know which of those 2 doses the president got, but
now,
that
is this what we would call a clinical trial? Something
this is a clinical trial. This is a phase
dose ranging trial.
Yeah, this is a phase 1 trial here. This is dose finding part of it here. So this is the dose. Well, this actually could be a phase 2 trial.
So can I ask a question right now? So are we saying not only has the president been treated at Walter Reed, he is the president of the United States, but he also accepted himself personally to be a part of clinical trials?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. Well, yes, he did. But this right here was a clinical trial done 2-3 months ago. So this is the information that is in a journal where you can pull this up just like this. Actually been published online about 12 weeks ago that showed these pictures in the early stages of what he ends up getting. Okay,
I think what I'm going to say wanted to say there is the president has exhibited to me to do a lot of things and say
boldly.
Basically his actions are, you don't be afraid. I wasn't afraid. When the doctor comes in and says, try this, do it, I did it. You
That's
understand
bold.
what I'm saying?
That's bold.
All right.
That's bold.
And as Bill is alluding to, in a clinical trial, there is an extensive informed consent document where the doctor goes through, okay, this is what we know about it, this is what we don't know about, this is what could possibly happen.
Yeah, and when
you sign that.
With every one of these infusions, we gave 90 infusions in my office yesterday. 90 people got drugs of this type in my office yesterday.
Folks, we're talking about the president's care.
Okay.
If you are wondering truly how the president, what the drugs, Dr. Connolly at Walter Reed, go ahead, Dr. Witt.
All right, so we make these patients all know that some of you are likely to have chills and fever when you get this infusion. So we pre-medicate that group of people with dexamethasone once again, and that miracle drug, Benadryl, been on the market for 75 years, diminishes infusion reactions. Okay, show the next one. You've seen this before. That happens to be the COVID virus in the middle with antibodies attacking it. For the last 5 years, we've talked about that being a cancer cell with activated T cells or antibodies attacking it. So this is actually a schematic of the SARS virus that the president got, COVID-19. COVID antibody. Now go to the next one. The issue with this antibody is, if you look at this one, you got the one on the global transmission. This virus, when it first hit town, for the sake of argument, was called D614, and it spikes, and it immediately began to mutate. Remember, we're going to show in just a minute where this went all over the world. And then this mutates to this G614, and what you had here is you've got two different viruses affecting different parts of the world. Okay, so you begin up here in February with this virus predominating. Now this is May 16th. The second virus is predominating. Now you don't know what virus anybody's got, because to find this you got to go do a bunch of genetic tests. So pull out that next one. So right this minute,
Bill, let me emphasize what you just said there. So the test that we commonly give will say this is a COVID-19 virus. It doesn't say which genotype.
It does, right.
D or the G.
That's right.
But it has changed in its genetic.
That's right. Okay, now you're going to look. Now there are 3. So that shows you what happened first. There's 2. Now worldwide there's 3. We're going to call them, for the sake of argument. You got ABC up there, Emily? And this tells you what different parts of the world this virus is in. So go to that last one, and then we'll get through showing pictures. But this world map that you've got right there shows you that the A and the B and the C are all in different parts of the world. You see that little dark spot there? There's a dark spot, there's a light spot, there's a heavy spot. So I'm not trying to confuse everybody. Pull that down. But now, so he could have any of these 3 viruses, and there may be more. So what that cocktail was, and we'll go back to this picture that I've shown so many times. Go back to this picture. If you look at this antibody here, you remember an antibody is made by a plasma cell. Plasma cell comes from a lymphocyte, and the lymphocyte gets stimulated by the antigen. So we've talked before, does immunity last? Remember that immunity lasts for a real long time with a shingles shot, real long time with a measles shot, and only 1 year with a flu shot, okay? And that's the difference between whether or not their memory cell has the ability to recognize a virus that has mutated somewhat but still has a common part. So all 3 of these A, B's, and C's have common parts, and this company has created then a cocktail of antibodies that hit all 3 of these viruses and these different strains of the COVID virus, and hopefully any others that come out, meaning that the spikes and that are changing, there's a piece in there that's the same. And so that's what the president got. He got this, I'll come back to this again in a minute. He got a factory made in a test tube, or actually made a great big old thing like a wine barrel, where they took the antibody, generated tons and tons of it, and then hooked it in high concentration in that little bitty glass tube. Way back 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago, I was talking about taking convalescent serum. I said, if you've had the COVID virus and you're young, go donate your serum so they can make convalescent serum to give to people, because we know that works. That's what they did with the Ebola virus. Was they took serum took blood right out of people who'd recovered, concentrated it, and gave it to patients. And I was saying 6 weeks ago, that treatment is going on in some Atlanta hospitals and is experimental, and it seems to lower the intensity of the disease by 30%. Well, you just take that and supercharge it, because that is not what the president got. He got the antibody supercharged in high concentration, made in a laboratory. It's not convalescent serum, and that right there is the next step in high quality therapy. It's not prevention, it's not a vaccine, it's taking people, and the clinical trials that are going on now is, one, this is expensive to make. It takes a whole, as Ray said not long ago, it'd take you years to get this under the old system, but they've crammed all this down into, I bet this has been 12 to 14, maybe 16, 18 weeks to go from an idea to a daggum tube, where I think there are 150,000 doses of this already out there in the United States in the clinical trial. So all they really did was, instead of him going to the Mayo Clinic or going down to Emory or the North Side where this is in clinical trial, they said, can the president get on the clinical trial in the Walter Reed Hospital, and can you give him a dose? And the manufacturer said, no doubt about it, but we can't do it unless we get FDA approval to include him in a compassionate use program. Remember now, the right to access is a Trump presidency program that began in his first few weeks in the White House, where if you run out of options and there's some experimental drug out there that might help you and it's at a clinical trial over here, not available to you, you have the right to try it. So it was with that right to try that the FDA immediately gave the access to him, and his data will probably be spun over to George Washington University or Johns Hopkins or one of the institutions in Washington, D.C. that's doing the study. But instead of being administered in Ray's office by Ray on this form, it's spun out to Walter Reed, and somebody in Walter Reed's going to have to fill out the paperwork.
And that right to try legislation was complex.
Yes.
BKP. Because basically you're pulling the lawyers and the litigious part out of it. One doctor who's involved in a trial can be approached by another doctor and say, I've got this patient, I have no other options for them. What you're studying there looks very innovative and possibly could help my patient. Can they try it? And that's not even within the protocol spectrum. And so that legislation said, yeah, if those two collaborate and it makes sense to them, and the patient signs for it, says, I want to do it, nobody's going to be sued over this. That was very, very critical to give those patients that option. And then one other thing I want to jump to.
Wait. The other part of it was paying for it.
And paying for it, yes. Yeah, okay. Very massively expensive.
To do that.
Some of these studies are hundreds of millions of dollars to study a compound, and frequently fails. It just doesn't prove itself.
But on the other hand, we need people that want to try it so we can develop these things.
Yeah.
It was
involved in research. I do research.
It was a twofold.
Yeah.
People doing the research needed somebody to say, I want to try it.
Yeah.
And because now I would say their clinical trials are, wouldn't say better, but they're more apt to figure things out and find things out sooner, that they have more people making the decision.
I think the thing that you can take home from that statement is that clinical trials are what is necessary for us to come up with innovations.
Right.
And it takes a person willing to do that.
So let me say this, because there's somewhere else I want to go. The right to try, what President Trump put in place pretty upfront in his administration, the right to try, has played an enormous role.
Sure.
In where we're at now and being able to find out what we know about COVID and treat it.
And as enormous as that
Yeah,
let me put it another way. Georgia Cancer, Northside Cancer Center has a huge research department, okay?
Yes.
Right to try doesn't really increase the numbers of our patients in the category we want to get to the data to know, is this treatment better or worse? What it does for this patient is it gives the patient and their family the opportunity to get the most modern available experimental treatment without having to go through the hoops that it takes to get into a clinical trial. For example, we've got patients now, we want to get in a clinical trial, but the next stop's going to open up in 90 days. Well, that patient over here that needs it right now with the right to try doesn't have 90 days. So he bypasses all of that infrastructure and all of those rules, regulations, and red tape and gets it immediately. Now, his data may not help the outcome of the clinical trial. The whole purpose of the right to try is not to increase the number of people in clinical trials, but to provide the knowledge and expertise of the clinical trial program to this guy that's sick. And so you got to remember that it's really trying to help a small number of people who are desperate to get the benefit of all the science, technology, and expertise that's in the clinical trial. So these people on the right to try are not really in the clinical trial mechanism as it goes.
But their data will be collected.
Their data will be collected, yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, so the clinical trials are arduous, complex, very disciplined science. They require an institutional review board that makes sure that the patient's fully informed and is aware of what they're getting into.
And protected.
They require very disciplined protocols that define all the data that's going to be collected during the trial, the duration of the trial, how the patient's going to be observed through the trial, how intense they're going to be observed, when they're going to be observed, and then the follow-up after the trial's over, what's going to happen with the patient. So they're very disciplined things. During this period of COVID, where I'm going with this, there are people out there saying that COVID has been mishandled in this country. That is an absolute lie.
That's a myth.
It's a fallacious, disgusting lie. This country has done an incredible job on this virus. A completely unknown substance has come into our culture and infected a lot of people and hurt a lot of people. And the leadership of the country has compressed and accelerated the ability to get medicines that are therapeutic and vaccines that hopefully work. And they've disseminated the equipment and the knowledge around the country rapidly. And they've done what they have to do. They've empowered the states where health care is controlled.
Right.
It's controlled at the state level. The president doesn't. I've had a license in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Montana, Tennessee, Georgia. I've had licenses in a lot of places because each one of those states controls what goes on in that state.
Right.
Okay. So the president doesn't decide how people are going to get treated or what's going to happen and all this kind of stuff because they keep acting like this is a presidential thing. The president gets the bureaucracy out of the way and funds and makes sure the money's there and the collaboration's on and the pressure's all on to get things done at the highest level.
Yeah, really, he gets rid of a lot of red tape and regulation.
Well, let me just say
and he's got the bully pulpit. And he can get Ford, General Motors, Toyota all together in the same room.
I'm clear on the federal response because I'm going to say this, and we don't want to go down.
Don't go down politics now.
No, but what I'm saying, yeah, but we have no choice but to mingle some things because there's a lot of people come on screen and they say the federal response has been a disaster.
It's a lie. That's a lie.
Okay, I knew that was your answer, but let me finish.
Okay.
Great.
Why do you get to finish on my program?
But wait a minute. I got somewhere that you're going to...
All right.
All right. You buzzed in real quick. You didn't let me finish the question. But no, they say the federal... So what I'm hearing from both of you is the federal response needed to be get rid of the red tape, get it out of the way so states that actually administer or are in charge of your health care per state get things out of the way, cut the red tape, and provide funding. And we do know trillions of dollars have been approved and passed. And the federal response did get red tape. So what you're saying is what they needed to do, they did that. Is that
let me say one other thing about that. I believe that the federal government's role in health care is very minimal. It is a state and personal responsibility. I've always felt that. But what the president did, and it might not have been him, might have been Mike Pence, it might have been somebody else, but they immediately provided the funds to pay for the tests so that you don't have to come up with $125 or your insurance company doesn't have to cover it. Now, they did in the first few weeks, but the federal government has backed the cost of testing. And second, they have provided the funds it takes to pay for the care of a person in a hospital with the COVID virus if he's uninsured or whatever, so that nobody keeps mama at home because we don't have health insurance for the COVID virus. Now, that is about as much as you could possibly ask them to do, besides get out of the way and let all of these disparate groups, you only say Pfizer and all the rest, I like to say Ford, General Motors, Mercedes-Benz, and BMW all come together to build the fastest car they can build, the quickest they can build it. It's better with all those heads. He's got all of these drug companies that are in total competition over antibiotics and blood pressure medicines, all drilled in with no competition on coming up with something in a vaccine trial. And this drug right here, there's 4 other companies working on similar ways of cocktails. Well, theirs might be somewhat better. It may take it to the next step. We don't know the answer to that question.
And Bill, that's the beauty of our country.
That's the beauty of our country.
Because you get a lot of people working on a problem, and you collaborate, and you come up with a solution, and whoever's the best wins. Because some people are going to lose, some people are going to win. But that's where leadership comes in, is to say, hey, we need a lot of eyes on this. We need a lot of ideas here. This is big. This is important. And that happened. And I'm very proud of our country. I'm very amazed at what's happened during this pandemic.
Something we have to, before we get out there, something we have to talk to the people about, that because we're hearing from TV doctors. We'll call them TV doctors. They're in white coats. We don't know really a whole lot about them. But there are some professionals that they bring.
They're all very attractive and articulate.
Yes.
And young. And I think you need to remember that. Go ahead.
Got it. The over and over. We don't know when the president tested positive. So let me set this up, because this is the media. We don't know when he tested positive. It's important. We have to know when. He wants to go out Sunday. We don't know if he still has the virus. He says he's doing great. His doctors say, who can we trust? What can we trust? He can't debate one-on-one with somebody because we don't know the truth. There's still unanswered questions about his medical care.
What do you see in the nature? You've really summed that up well, but what do you see that's behind every one of those statements?
November 3rd.
No, well, November 3rd.
Political.
But the we.
Well, we, okay.
But look,
all right.
Somebody's supposed to be in charge here, and it's our group of people that's supposed to be in charge, and when we're in charge, this is what you're going to do. And we get to decide whether you meet the criteria or not, and we get to decide, do you get to do what you want to do? Okay? They need to get their nose out of that tent. Most of the people say, you don't have any business in my business. I want to do what I want to do, and I appreciate your input, but the only thing you need to be doing is setting the standards and making sure everybody's playing the game fair.
Right.
So you're
now,
okay.
Let's go back to the standards.
Dr. Conley says, you're clear, Mr. President,
Wait a minute.
to move about the country.
Whoa. The CDC said a long time ago, and I said this, Steve Barlow told us this 12 weeks ago. I don't care whether you choose 10 days or you choose 14. But once you've got the COVID virus and you've got the 10 or the 14 days behind you and you're out of the expensive care, you have not had a fever for 3 days and you're doing just fine, you can go back out into the world, because you may still have that virus testable for more than 90 days in a very low non-infectious amount. So you remember 2 months ago we said you don't need a negative test after being treated to get back to work. Well, before that we did. You couldn't come back to work at Northside Hospital if you had it without a negative test. 3 months ago or so we quit requiring that. So the president has met his criteria. When he has been without fever and without symptoms for 3 days, and at least 10 or 14 days since this whole thing began, he can do any doggone thing he wants. But I want to say a couple other things because I want to encourage people here. First, BKP usually starts this program by showing testing data. All of the testing data that has come out in the last few days, and the people on the talking heads are saying the Midwest needs to shut down, Midwest needs to do that. Model yourself after Sweden. Okay, first thing, 47% of the deaths in Sweden occurred in people in nursing homes and extended care facilities. What's the difference in ours? Ours is 40. Okay, so Sweden ain't no model to follow. Second, don't do anything until the testing gets down near 5%. Well, this thing got turned off, BKP.
We're at 9?
No, we're at 5% in Georgia right this minute. We're at 5% in Georgia on the test right here. I want you to just read that right there. PC molecular test reported today.
5%.
5%. We were 17, remember, 14, 13. I said we were 9. What's the number they told us we got to be at in Georgia to open up?
5.
What's the number on there? 5%. I want you to know, I don't want anybody my age or his age or your expert panel's age going to a bar where there are a bunch of people that have been in Panama City and feel like they're safe. I want them all to go to the grocery store and go into the big box store and wear their mask. I want them all to be able to get together with their friends in their homes, 6 or 8 of them, and play bridge and have a daggum meal. I want them all to be able to go to, there are several restaurants we have up here where the tables are 6 feet apart. People that are in there wearing masks, they clean that place up really good. I want them to feel good about protecting their air and going outside. But dadgummit, I think the schools ought to be open, and when they tell me they're going to cancel a football game because 8 people got positive tests, I say this is football, but those 8 guys have got ACLs. Get them out of there and place them with somebody else, and don't even postpone the game.
On that line, I'm heartbroken. There is a middle school cross-country team that is state ranked in this county, and there was an individual that tested positive, and they're depriving those students of competing in the state meet because of one student.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not. I mean, that breaks my heart that these kids
He's
have...
right.
Whoa.
No.
Who had the authority to do that?
I have no idea. It's just idiots.
He's right. No. I was in an office when the call came in.
Well, I didn't hear. I'm shocked.
You're right. Oh, he's 100% right.
Well, that's because he's got his nose under the tent.
Every Friday night, there is a game canceled somewhere. We do not have a game. Union's game is canceled tonight because the opponent can't play. You're right. Can't go there time-wise. I have one more question. I probably have a dozen more, but you're right.
Those parents need to start screaming at something.
I was encouraging people by the low testing rate.
Yes.
All right, the second is there's a test of news. Just read that headline. Benefits of the common cold that may prevent the COVID virus. Do you remember me talking about that antibody recognizing pieces of that COVID virus and in that thing that President Trump got? That's why I wanted to bring it to here. There is some information that our memory cells may be able to be tweaked by the vaccine, and everybody's had a common cold, and that common cold COVID recognition and the vaccine may make the vaccine more effective than the natural disease has done. So there may be a reason why the vaccine would give you more immunity than having the disease and recovering from it did. Most of the time, if you've got a disease, you recovered from it, you don't need to be vaccinated. But there may be reasons that the vaccine will sort of supercharge any immunity you might have had to the common cold virus or the COVID virus.
Really quick, are you satisfied with the information that the White House physician, Dr. Conley, is giving the American people? You're totally satisfied with it? Are you satisfied with the information?
Absolutely. And I also want to find out whether he's a commander in the Navy or a lieutenant colonel in the Army. But I think he's honest and he's forthcoming.
I try to watch it from another angle because I did. I sit there Friday. I watched Marine Force One. I listened to him talk like it was hush hush, and the president was being, they were hoping, the media was hoping that the president would be pulled out and not be able to walk to Marine Force One. I'm serious, and they'd
like to have him on a stretcher.
Right, they wanted him on a stretcher, and they wanted the IVs and everything, oxygen on him. And I watched Marine Force One leave and go, and I do know when it's President of the United States, it's all important. But I understood it was routine, and your doctor said, we're going to move you. We have heard, he's President of the United States, we have gone and heard, we're going to keep you overnight for observation, okay? So you both are okay. Now, what do you say to the people out there? Because let's take it off the board that he's the President of the United States. He's a 74-year-old male, slightly overweight, could have a couple underlying conditions. What does that say about out there feeling confident in our seniors that we are treating this?
We've already said that the death rate in the seniors is 4% or less. I mean,
what did that say for you with?
Am I wrapping up here?
No, you don't have to wrap up.
Okay, so as Bill said, the death rate in the high-risk people is 4%. Okay, the death rate in the younger people is 1,000th of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, the flu hurts them more than this. There's no reason at all to deprive these children of their activities in their school. Okay, so that,
I need to clarify, of the people in that age group who have the disease and get hospitalized.
Yes.
4%.
Is that intense?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so back from what we've been saying throughout this whole thing, all of our efforts now needs to focus on those at risk, protect those at risk, and pull resources off everyone else. We only have so many resources in this country. There are people at risk. We need to protect them as best we can. We need to not let people get into nursing homes that don't belong in nursing homes. And we need to focus on those that are still moving around and how do we take care of them. You can only do so much at one time, and that's where all the research, and to this end, there is a petition going around which now is collecting thousands and thousands of physician signatures all over the country saying that very thing. Focus on the at-risk, protect them, take care of them, leave everyone else alone. Open the country up.
Okay, herd immunity. Can't walk away without herd immunity. Watched a very good video this week, about 50 minutes long, with 3 doctors, one from 3 professionals.
Cambridge, Stanford, and Harvard.
Stanford, did you say?
Yep.
And Harvard, about 50 minutes long. Some very interesting things that I took away that I would not have known without being here. It seems like what we should have done, and if I get this wrong, is if we had, when this all happened, if we had, and we spent trillions of dollars, trillions, we could have done this, and if we had the young man, 58 years old, we'll call him 58 years old, stocking a grocery shelf, but we knew he's overweight, diabetic, slight heart disease, we should have sent that person home and said, you stay there for 6 months. We're going to make sure financially you can keep going. We're going to put a 23-year-old to stock those grocery shelves now. If we would have done some things like that, you with me?
Yeah, but you're talking about an authoritarian society.
That's social engineering.
But I understand that, but we would have had a...
Let's make it more simple. Okay.
I understand
Bill's ambivalent about Sweden. I like Sweden, but let me tell you.
No, I'm not ambivalent. I'm just saying they had the same death rate in nursing homes we did.
But if Sweden had done what they did and focused on the at-risk group, okay, so they should have said, these are nursing home patients. We got to really protect them. We got to lock these things. The nursing homes, the assisted living, the elderly population, we got to protect them. Okay, so yeah, everyone else from the very beginning should have been going about their business, and the at-risk people identified and taken care of.
And that's where they made the mistake.
That's what I'm saying, at-risk. I agree with you, but I'm saying if we would have identified the at-risk community, but we shut schools down immediately, and we shut down where they should have been the ones driving the buses.
Yeah, I want to say this.
I understand what you said. I'm not advocating it.
Yeah, but you're doing something. You're doing something that's dangerous that the fake media does, and that is use today's knowledge.
Yeah.
To criticize decisions made months ago that did not have that knowledge. So in January,
that,
when the
okay.
President of the United States shut down travel to China, you didn't also know he probably should have shut down travel from Italy. We didn't learn that for another 4 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So we have learned different things. We only learned a few months ago that,
And we don't want to be money.
and we don't want to be modern quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You could not have made that decision in February or March. You didn't know the nursing homes were going to turn out to be the problem, and you didn't know that the grocery
I
store
get that.
clerk
I
didn't
get
know.
that.
So you can't look back and say, if we had done this then, we didn't have that knowledge then. So I don't think that's safe.
But we do know it now.
We do know it
still
now.
have places shut down. And to the thing that you were just saying, we still have people at risk that don't know they're at risk. They're confused. They hear that the kids are not at risk. Well, maybe I'm a kid. I don't know. You know, we need to help people understand. Are you at risk or not? And here's what you need to do if you are. That should be just constantly being drilled out there in the media. Are you at risk? Figure out if you're at risk. Check with your doctor. And then everyone else go about your business.
Herd immunity. I left
There
it-
are some
I left the
areas.
ground
There
there.
are some areas of this country that I think are behaving like we have herd immunity. That's my opinion. That's some of the doctors that are signing on to this thing. Now, I'm not an infectious disease specialist. I'm not an
I'm not either.
epidemiologist, and so I look to them for the ultimate answer on this. But there are epidemiologists and there are ID people who are saying, for whatever reason, there are parts of the world that are behaving like they're at herd immunity.
I can't disagree with that at all, but I think herd immunity waits on the vaccine.
Yeah.
Wrap up.
I think that's just very
I think
important
we did a good
that
job.
we've summed it up well. So
Yeah, and I say for crying in the night, let the cross country kids run.
let those kids run. Good health.
Thank you very much. First of all, let's make sure that we are very clear that I've never approved an authoritarian method. Okay, I just want to go on the record.
And
with
you didn't
that.
make any dangerous decisions.
I may have gotten, maybe my sentence structure there.
Yeah, all right,
off,
okay.
but
And don't
It's
forget,
unforgivable.
I want to be clear.
if you like this, I want you to remember this is Northside. This is Georgia Cancer Specialist, Northside Comprehensive Cancer Center, and we have big time clinical trials going on, and they sponsor this program.
So if the president holds a rally Sunday and thousands of people decide for themselves they want to go,
They're adults.
they do not need to be concerned that they will
they
contract
are
COVID
adults.
from the president.
No.
They're not gonna
They
catch
are
anything
adults.
from the
They
president.
need to make their decision based upon what they
Are
understand.
they
and what
are they
they
providing
Was-
barbecue and beer or not?
Was the plexiglass Wednesday night
Oh, my
ridiculous?
God.
Goofy.
Oh, is that goofy?
Goofy. Final word right here. Ask the doc. Don't forget, as Dr. William Whaley said, we always want to thank. You see it on the screen there. We don't see it, but you see it at home. Georgia Cancer Specialist affiliated with Northside Hospital. We appreciate them for bringing this great information. As you heard early on in the beginning, we have a lot of people send messages and say, when I want to clear something up, I go here, listen to these two great doctors that study it every day. We appreciate them. We appreciate you. Share this with your friends. You can go to FYNTV.com, click on Ask the Doc for the latest episodes. Share them with your friends, or go to our YouTube channel, FYNTV, Fetch Your News, playlist Ask the Doc. We're going to take a break. It's time for the All-Star Political Panel, and we'll probably move a lot of this discussion right over there, right after these messages.